What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Donch Show. Today, we're going to be using a tier list to rank the greatest chins in boxing history. Let's get right into it. Here we are now, the greatest chin tier list. I made a tier list last time with the heavyweights. Had a good time making that. It was definitely fun. The greatest heavyweights of all time. People disagreed, people agreed. It's okay. I don't expect you guys to agree with everything. If you do disagree with this list, comment down below. Let's talk about it. Maybe I change your mind. Maybe you change my mind. But let's just have fun. It's just a list at the end of the day. There's no right or wrong answer. So what determines a good chin, a good strong chin in boxing? It's really hard to, define. I usually just consider a strong chin as, well, they don't hit the canvas much often. They don't get hit the canvas a lot. They don't get knocked out a lot. And who they face is definitely a big factor, especially in the heavier divisions. If you're facing a lot of strong punchers and you don't hit the canvas, well, you have a very strong chin. You hit the canvas a lot, you get knocked out a lot, you get affected a lot by punches thrown at you, well, you have a pretty weak chin. So the people I have on here, these guys were known for good chins. Some were known for weak chins, okay? Some were just overall just popular fighters that I want to put on here just to talk about. So let's get right into it. Once again, if you guys disagree or agree, just let me know what you think down below in the comments. So right off the bat, we always do the greatest chins of all time. And right off the bat, I want to put George Chuvalo number one. George Foreman he faced, Muhammad Ali he faced, and Joe Frazier he faced. Didn't hit the canvas against any of them. He had 93 professional fights and just did not hit the canvas at all. That's the perfect definition of a strong chin. Now let's look at the opponents he faced though. I mentioned George Foreman, one of the hardest punchers ever, didn't hit the canvas against him. Joe Frazier didn't hit the canvas against him. Muhammad Ali, not known so much as a powerful puncher, but definitely a repetitive puncher. Knocked out a lot of guys in his career, but didn't hit the canvas against him. That's impressive. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many titles you win. That's a strong chin. He gets S tier for me. Other guys who I believe should deserve to be S tier. There's actually a lot compared to my heavyweight tier list I made. There's a lot. There's more than two. Let's do Triple G, another guy. Never hit the canvas his whole career, even amateurs. He's like 200 plus amateur career fight, 300 career amateur fights he had. Never hit the canvas once. Took hard shots against Canelo. All right, 3 times he faced Canelo. Canelo's a very, very hard puncher. He just keeps moving forward. That's another thing I want to note. Guys like Triple G just keep moving forward. They keep attacking you after you throw punches at him. They don't just stand back and say, okay, well, this guy punches pretty hard. Let me stay back. Let me be conservative. No, they keep pressuring you. So when you keep pressuring, when you're getting hard punches thrown at you, hooks and uppercuts, 2 of the hardest punches thrown at you, and you still keep moving forward, you don't get knocked out, you don't hit the canvas, you don't get affected. That's the thing with Triple G. Watch his fights. He doesn't even get affected by any of these punches. That's why I have him now as S tier. George Foreman, S tier. Now, he got knocked out against Muhammad Ali. But if you watch that fight, if you watch the knockout, he didn't get knocked out because he had a weak chin. He got knocked out because he was exhausted. Muhammad Ali was using the rope-a-dope style. George Foreman is using everything in him, and he just got exhausted. He just gave up. Muhammad Ali eventually came back, just throw a bunch of punches at him. George Foreman just fell because he was exhausted. Alrighty, so I don't really consider that him having a weak chin. Obviously, Muhammad Ali won fair and square, but George Foreman lost mainly because he was exhausted and he fought stupid that night. That's why he hit the canvas. Didn't hit the canvas because he had a weak chin. Watch the fight with him against Evander Holyfield. Holyfield's a strong dude, powerful puncher. George Foreman kept moving forward, took punches like it was nothing. Same thing happened with Tommy Morrison. Tommy Morrison, one of the best left hooks in boxing history, just kept landing them on George Foreman. Even though he lost that fight, same with the Holyfield fight, he didn't hit the canvas, just kept moving forward. It's absolutely insane, the amount of power. He faced Shannon Briggs too. Shannon Briggs, a very powerful puncher. Didn't hit the canvas. Unbelievable, the chin that George Foreman has. I wouldn't say he has the greatest chin of all time. I could say Triple G or Chuvalo or maybe other guys I put in S tier still, but he's definitely S tier for his situation and what he did throughout his career. Next on S tier, Jake LaMotta. Faced guys like Sugar Ray Robinson multiple times. Throughout his whole career, he had over 100 fights, Jake did. Knocked down only once. I mean, come on. That's not S tier chin. Then I don't know what is. Definitely S tier for Jake LaMotta. Tough fighter. It's crazy is Jake had all of his marbles as he got older. He passed away, unfortunately, but still intact. Still a clean dude, I feel like. Didn't really show signs of much brain damage or anything. Same thing with George Foreman, too. That's another thing. George Foreman, if you hear him talk now, talks perfectly fine. Talks like, he's just a regular old man. Doesn't show any side effects of any punch drunk or anything like that. So Jake LaMotta also S tier. Next up, we got Marvin Hagler. I have to say he's S tier. Where could I even find him? Here he is. S tier. Throughout all of his fights, he faced strong punchers. Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, fast punchers that could hit you with a flash knockdown like Sugar Ray Leonard. Hagler stayed up. He was only knocked out once in his career, but it was still kind of disputed. So Hagler, another guy who came after you. Watch that fight against Tommy Hearns, one of the greatest fights ever. Ended in like 3 rounds. Tommy Hearns, very hard puncher. Hagler kept going. So S tier for Marvin Hagler. Alrighty, so now probably we're running out now of S tiers. You can't keep putting everybody at S tier. So I'd have to say, now this might shock a lot of people, Oliver McCall. Dude had over 70 fights, faced a lot of heavy guys, a lot of strong punchers. Lennox Lewis. But here's the thing. He was never knocked out. His only knockout loss was against Lennox Lewis, but let me tell you why. Because he quit. He had that mental breakdown and just left the ring. He didn't actually get knocked out. Okay, Oliver McCall has an amazing chin, over 70 fights in the heavyweight division. Very, very strong chin Oliver McCall had. Very underrated chin he had. Not talked about enough. And like I said, his only knockout loss wasn't even a knockout. It was a TKO because he just left the ring. So that's something to consider. That's why I have him at S tier. All right, let's do some D tiers. Now, it's hard to really determine what's D tier. I mean, obviously, it determines how much you get knocked out. Amir Khan, everybody knows that. I mean, he got folded multiple times. That one against Canelo Alvarez, he was out. He wasn't getting back up. So I put Amir Khan at D. For A tiers, let's do Floyd Mayweather. You're probably thinking, Floyd Mayweather never lost. One of the best defenders ever. 50-0, never touched the canvas either. Yeah, but here's the thing with Floyd Mayweather. It's really hard to determine if he had a good chin. So that's why I put him on here. I didn't even think about putting him on here. It's really hard to determine if he had a good chin or not. He got some power shots in his life. But the thing with him was he was so good at defense that he just barely even got touched with power shots. So when it comes to chin, I'll put him at B. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could put him at S because all the power shots that he did get hit with, he didn't hit the canvas. He got rocked by Mosley. So, for that, I'm putting him at A. But Floyd Mayweather's defense is so good, so slick, he didn't even get touched. He didn't even get the chance to get knocked down on the canvas. Tommy Hearns, I have to go, I don't know, D or C. Listen, a legendary boxer. But the main thing that I'll put him at C, the main thing that held him back was a weak chin. Marvin Hagler, Leonard, other fighters throughout later in his career. Main reason why he got held back is because he had a pretty weak chin. Another 4 king, Roberto Duran. I mean, speaking of Tommy Hearns, he got absolutely folded by Tommy Hearns. That right hand in the second round, that was one of the best right hands that boxing has ever seen. That put Roberto Duran quick, but he got back up eventually. But that right hand by him, I don't know, it's very hard to determine Roberto Duran. I mean, he was pretty good at defense, Roberto Duran was too. He was pretty slick. He had 4 losses by knockout. 1 was because he also quit against Sugar Ray Leonard. But the thing with Duran too is he went all 12 rounds with Marvin Hagler, went all 12 rounds with other guys, other tough fighters around Barkley. So for that, I put Duran's chin at a B. Sonny Liston now. Last time I did the heavyweight rankings, I said Sonny Liston was a bit overrated. I had a conversation with the guy in the comments, and he did change my mind a bit. I put Sonny Liston at a C. I think he was a B all-time great. Chin as well. He faced some powerful fighters also, but I'll put him at B. Muhammad Ali's knockouts against him were so quick, so it just seems so easy for Muhammad Ali to put Sonny Liston down like that, knock him out back-to-back fights so early on in the fights. For that, I had to put Sonny Liston at B. Roy Jones Jr. now. I'm going to put him at a C. He got knocked out quite a few times in his career. And here's the thing with Roy Jones Jr. also. I mean, when he went up to heavyweight, he came back down. He got absolutely knocked out by Tarver. Then second fight after that, he got knocked out again. So, I mean, maybe you'll blame it on him just cutting weight, coming back down like that, affected his career, affected his chin. But it happened. Whether we like it or not, it happened. And, that's why I have to put Roy Jones Jr.'s chin at C. I have Isaac Cruz on here. I wanted to put him on here after that fight with Rolly. He also fought Tank, went the distance with Tank, other strong fighters. And he's another guy who just keeps moving forward. No matter what you throw at him, it doesn't affect him. For that, Isaac Cruz got a chin of an A. I'm sorry, but he just does. Canelo Alvarez is another guy with a very underrated chin. I put him at A. Bivol, Triple G, a bunch of other strong fighters. Bump up to light heavyweight again to fight Kovalev. Stays up. Never knocked down. He got knocked down once, but it wasn't. He didn't hit the canvas. He got knocked down against the ropes. It's counted as a knockdown, but a standing knockdown. But he never hit the canvas. Never hit the canvas. Faced very hard punchers in his career. Charlo, like I mentioned, Triple G 3 times. Kovalev, Bivol. I mean, maybe that's why he's ducking Benavidez. Maybe he might have the chance to get knocked down once. But other than that, I mean, Canelo, a lot of fights he has, also well over 50, and never hit the canvas. So I give Canelo an A for chin. Johnny Tapia, I'm going to go with A also. He was only knocked out once in his career, but it was at the end of his career. Later on in his career, he had a lot of fights as well. He had well over 60 60 professional fights. Only knocked out once, and it was at the end of his career. He took a lot of punishment, took a lot of punches. He stayed up. That was Johnny Tapia, so I give him an A. I don't have him on here, but thinking about also, guys like Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, I mean, you see those fights. The amount of fights that they got those guys through, especially Arturo Gatti. He stays up a lot of the time. That war with Mickey Ward, 3 trilogy with Mickey Ward, he got knocked down. But, I mean, you look at his career, he had a pretty good chin as well. Manny Pacquiao. I hate to do this, but he has a B chin. He also took a lot of hard punches in his career, but that one against Juan Manuel Marquez, when he was out, I mean, that affected a lot. Even though later on in his career, he still stayed with a pretty strong chin against guys like Thurman. But, you know, even before the Juan Manuel Marquez knockout, he got knocked down a couple times and was knocked out twice earlier in his career. So for that, Manny Pacquiao, B tier chin. Tyson Fury. This one's a bit hard. He got knocked down multiple times in his career. I think it was like 6. Got knocked out against Francis Ngannou, Wilder a couple times, other times early in his career. Tyson Fury got knocked down a bunch, but what's impressive about him was he never got knocked out, and he gets up every single time. He got up against Deontay Wilder, ended up beating him. Francis Ngannou fight might have been controversial, but he got knocked down against him, ended up beating Francis Ngannou. Got knocked down in his other fights, and ended up coming back and beating them. The draw against Wilder, many people considered Fury actually won that fight out points, but he ended up coming back and ended up drawing against Deontay Wilder after getting knocked down a couple times. So I don't know if you really consider that a chin or just heart or toughness. So for that, B. I wouldn't put him at A because he got knocked down 6 times. Would have put him at S because he's not S. But I can't put him at C because he gets back up and he ends up winning fights, or just doesn't lose them. So that's why I put him at B. Michael Moore, I put him at, I don't know, D or C. You know what? D. I gotta put him at D. He had a pretty weak chin. That loss against George Foreman, powerful puncher, but it was a simple 1-2, and he went down. David Tua, he also fought. He got rocked and was just down. He went through the ropes. Michael Moore, I got to give a D for chin. Sugar Ray Robinson. Okay, he got knocked down quite a few times in his career. Only lost by knockout once. I got to go with A tier. Okay, got knocked down quite a few times, but only had one loss by knockout also. Because of that, give it A tier. Muhammad Ali. I don't know. I mean, another guy that has A tier. I don't know. Maybe an S. Maybe Ali could be an S tier actually, because he took a lot of punishment. S tier. George Foreman, Joe Frazier, which he did get knocked down against. So many other guys. Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson, Ken Norton. So many other guys. So many hard punchers. You know what? That's why I put Ernie Shaver. That's why I put Muhammad Ali at S tier. I have to put him at S tier. Fought so many great guys. Probably the best boxing resume, heavyweight resume ever. S tier for Muhammad Ali, actually. The Klitschko brothers, I'll put them at B. They fought a lot of hard guys. They got knocked down, got knocked out. But, I mean, like I said, they had lengthy careers also, all in the heavyweight division. And they were pretty tough. They kept going forward. They kept walking you down. Klitschko brothers were tough fighters, tough chins. I put them at B. Sugar Ray Leonard, strong chin, but he was knocked down a couple of times. Also lost by stoppage against Hector Camacho, even though that was later on in his career. I got to go with B for Sugar Ray Leonard. So he was another guy who, his defense was good. He tried to move around, try to avoid fighters in a fight to really not get punched hard. So that's another thing. His chin wasn't tested as much. Joe Calzaghe, I have to put him at A tier. Never lost. All right, obviously never lost by knockout, but he was knocked down a couple times. So A tier. Julio Cesar Chavez knocked down a couple of times, lost 4 fights by stoppage. I got to go with B tier for Julio Cesar Chavez, but he had a lot of fights, many fights in his career, 115 total fights. He had that Mexican style where he'd walk you down already, lean with his head, take a punch, give a punch. So he still stayed up. Very tough fighter. B tier. Mike Tyson. Not many people are going to like this, but I think Mike Tyson had a pretty bad chin. Knocked out 5 times in his career. Knocked down multiple times, more than that. I think Mike Tyson had a pretty weak chin, and they were in title fights. Buster Douglas, that knockdown, that made it hard for Tyson for this list. I think Mike Tyson had a pretty weak chin, and because of that, I put C tier. Lennox Lewis got knocked out pretty clean against Rahman, but he fought a lot of hard punchers like the Klitschko brothers. Tyson didn't get knocked out. Was only stopped twice in his career, but knocked out clean against Rahman. B tier for Lennox Lewis. Also, I want to point out Joe Frazier. He got knocked down a couple times. I mean, not a couple times, a lot. I mean, against George Foreman, he just kept going down. I think it was like 10 times Joe Frazier hit the canvas in his career. Joe Frazier, if he was on here, I have to put him at D tier for a chin. If Joe Frazier, I had Joe Frazier on here. I'm sorry, but I had to. As a matter of fact, I gotta put Joe Frazier on here. D tier for Joe Frazier. I'm sorry, but that chin was pretty weak. Chin-wise, pretty weak. Evander Holyfield knocked down quite a few times as well in his career. Had 2 losses by stoppage. For Evander Holyfield, I gotta go B tier for Holyfield. David Tua had himself a chin. Never lost a fight by knockout. A tier for David Tua. Shannon Briggs, very underrated chin as well. I have to put him at A tier. Only lost once by knockout, and that was against Lennox Lewis. But you watch his fight against Vitaly Klitschko. I got absolutely beat up, absolutely destroyed. I had to go to the hospital after. But he just kept taking punishment, and he stayed up. Well, to at least finish the fight. So very impressive by that for Shannon Briggs. So I got to put him at A tier. Very underrated chin. Oscar De La Hoya, I'll go B tier. I mean, he got affected a lot by punches. He only lost by knockout twice. I mean, one of it was because he got a big body shot by Bernard Hopkins, and the other was because he just quit on the stool against Manny Pacquiao. So he never really got stopped because he had a weak chin, but the punches affected him. Like we saw against Manny Pacquiao, those punches affected him. Against other guys he lost to, the punches he got hit with affected him, and that would make him end up losing his fights. Then last, James Toney, one of the most slick fighters ever. Another guy similar to Floyd's situation where he was just so slick that every time he really didn't get a chance to get hit as much. He did hit the canvas a couple times. Controversial, I guess you could say, against Roy Jones, but never knocked out in his career. James Toney, A tier. Well, everybody, that was the greatest chins in boxing history. I hope you guys all enjoyed. This was actually a bit harder than I thought. I thought it was going to be a bit more easier, but you really got to dig deep into these boxers' careers and really think, well, how many times were they knocked down? Who did they face? How did it affect them when they got punched hard? So it was a bit, like I said, harder than I expected. I'm sure I left some boxers off that you guys were expecting to see. Comment down below. I'd love to judge them, rank them down below in the comments. I'm sure you guys also don't agree with everything. That's okay. Comment down below, and I'm sure we'll have a good conversation about it. But hope you guys enjoyed. A lot more tier lists coming up in the future. I'm sure it'll be better than this one. I'll be actually doing more weight classes. The world's greatest middleweights of all time, lightweights, etc. Most powerful punchers of all time. So I'll definitely be doing more tier lists. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.